My heart was thumping like a drum, a really fast drum. I stood outside the big glass building. It was called Internship Solutions. The name sounded so important, so grown up. My hands were all sweaty. I wiped them on my trousers for the 10th time. My new shirt felt stiff and scratchy around my neck. Mom had ironed it for me this morning. She said I looked very smart. I didn't feel smart. I felt like a little boy playing dress-up in his dad's clothes. This was my first ever proper interview, an internship. The word itself felt big and scary. I took a deep breath, in and out, just like the videos I watched online told me to do. It was supposed to calm you down. It wasn't working very well. My legs felt a bit wobbly, like jelly. I looked at my reflection in the shiny glass door. My hair was mostly tidy. My tie was a little bit crooked. I straightened it carefully. I had practiced my handshake with my dad last night. He said it needed to be firm, not like a wet fish. I squeezed my hand into a fist, trying to remember the feeling. I just wanted to do well. I wanted them to like me. A lady with a bright pink coat bustled past me. She swiped a card and the glass door slid open with a soft whoosh. She didn't even look at me. I was invisible. For a second I thought about turning around. I could just go home. I could tell Mom I felt sick, but I couldn't. This was my chance. My chance to do something real, something that wasn't just schoolwork. I took one more wobbly breath and walked towards the door. It slid open for me, too. I was officially inside. The air was cool and smelled of coffee and something clean like lemons. The lobby was huge. The floor was so shiny I could see my face in it. There was a big desk in the middle. A lady with a headset sat there, typing very fast. Her nails were painted a sparkly blue. Everything was white and gray and looked very modern. It was so different from my school. It was so different from my bedroom. It felt like walking onto a film set. I clutched the strap of my bag. My portfolio was inside, filled with my best school projects. I hoped they would be good enough for a place like this. I walked towards the big desk, my shoes making small squeaky sounds on the polished floor. I stood in front of the sparkly nailed lady at the desk. I cleared my throat. It came out as a small squeak. How embarrassing. I tried again. "Hello," I said. My voice sounded higher than usual. I tried to make it deeper. "I'm Desmond Bonzo. I have an interview at 10 o'clock. I tried to smile. It felt more like my face was just pulling itself into a strange shape. I hoped I looked confident. I hoped I looked like someone who belonged here. Someone who could be an intern at Internship Solutions, not just a nervous boy from down the road. The lady looked up from her computer. She gave me a small, polite smile. "Desmond Bonzo," she repeated, typing my name. "Yes, for the design internship, with Miss Albright." She pointed to a row of sleek gray chairs. "Please take a seat. Miss Albright will be with you shortly." I nodded, trying to look cool and calm. "Thank you," I said, my voice still a bit shaky. I walked over to the chairs and sat on the very edge of one. I put my bag carefully on the floor beside me. I didn't want to look like I was slouching. I sat up as straight as a ruler. I tried not to fidget. I could feel my legs starting to jiggle up and down. I pressed my hand on my knee to make it stop. I looked around the waiting area. There was a glass table with magazines on it. They were all about business and technology. Nothing like the comics I read at home. On the wall there was a huge screen showing pictures of amazing-looking projects, robots and apps and things that glowed. It was all a bit overwhelming. I felt a tiny flutter of excitement mixed with the fear. I wanted to make things like that. I really did. My mind started to race. What if I said something silly? What if they asked me a question and my brain just went completely blank? I had practiced answers to all the usual questions. What is your biggest weakness? I was going to say I was a perfectionist. That's what the internet said to say. It sounded clever. But what if they saw right through me? What if they knew I was just a kid who was good at drawing in his sketchbook and didn't know anything about the real world? I took another deep, shaky breath and tried to push the bad thoughts away. I had to be brave. A door opened behind the reception desk. A woman walked out. She had short dark hair and wore glasses with bright red frames. She looked clever and busy. She looked straight at me. "Desmond?" she asked. Her voice was friendly but also very direct. I jumped up from my chair a bit too quickly. "Yes, that's me." "Hello," I said, maybe a little too loudly. I held out my hand just like I had practiced with Dad. "I'm Desmond Bonzo. It's very nice to meet you." I hope my handshake wasn't too fish-like, or too bone-crushing. Finding the middle ground was so tricky. She shook my hand. Her grip was firm and quick. "I'm Sarah Albright. It's nice to meet you too, Desmond. Follow me." She smiled, and it made her look less scary. She turned and led me down a long corridor. The walls were made of glass. I could see people working inside offices. They were all typing on keyboards or talking on the phone or pointing at big screens. Everyone looked so focused, so professional. It was like a beehive with everyone buzzing around doing important work. I tried to walk normally, not too fast and not too slow, keeping up with her brisk pace. We went into a small room. It was also made of glass. It felt like being in a fishbowl. There was a simple table and 2 chairs inside. "Please have a seat," Miss Albright said, gesturing to one of the chairs. She sat opposite me and placed a notepad and a pen on the table. She opened a folder that had my name on it. My name! She had a whole folder just about me. It had my application form inside, and my CV that I spent a whole weekend writing with my mom. She looked at it for a moment, and then she looked up at me. Her eyes were sharp behind the red glasses. I sat with my back straight, my hands folded neatly on my lap. I hoped I looked eager and professional. I hoped she couldn't hear my heart, which was now doing a full drum solo against my ribs. This was it, the real interview was starting. My whole future felt like it was balanced on this one moment, in this little glass box. I thought about all the drawings in my portfolio, all the late nights I'd spent on my school projects. I hoped it was enough. I just wanted a chance to show them what I could do. A chance to be part of this amazing, buzzing world of creation. Miss Albright smiled again. It was a proper smile this time, not just a polite one. "So, Desmond," she began, her voice calm and even, "your portfolio was very impressive. I particularly liked the concept art for the video game project. Tell me what inspired you." My brain, which had been frozen with fear, suddenly thawed. She liked my work. She actually liked it. A wave of relief washed over me, so strong it almost made me dizzy. This was my favorite project. I could talk about this for hours. It was the one thing I felt truly confident about. I took a breath and started talking. I told her about the old fantasy books I loved to read. I told her how I got the idea for the main character from watching a documentary about rare birds. The words just came out, one after the other. I wasn't just reciting answers I had practiced, I was just talking about something I loved. I even forgot to be nervous for a whole minute. I saw Miss Albright nodding and making a few notes on her pad. She seemed interested. She was actually listening to me. Me, Desmond Bonzo. I started to feel a tiny spark of hope deep inside me. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I wasn't just a silly kid in a grown-up's shirt. I was a person with ideas, good ideas even. Miss Albright asked me more questions and I answered them as best I could. Some were tricky, but I tried to be honest. I tried to show her that I was keen to learn. I wanted this internship more than anything. I wanted to sit in one of these glass offices and help create something amazing. I wanted to learn from people like her. As the interview came to a close, Miss Albright smiled one last time. "Thank you for coming in, Desmond. It was a pleasure to talk to you. We'll be in touch." I stood up and shook her hand again. This time my hand was steadier. I felt a little bit taller as I walked out of the glass room. I didn't know if I had the job, but I knew I had done my best. As I walked back through the big shiny lobby, I felt a new feeling bubble up inside me. It wasn't fear anymore. It was hope. A bright, shining glimmer of hope for my future.